Alright, just a quick flight around the new ORBX Washington scenery. I went ahead and got it, and I'm eager to see how it looks and how it works. So we're going to try that out today. And we're in VR at the moment in the V-Flight Cirrus model. And I can give some background, but I've been trying to get the Rift S to work a little bit better here. And have had some struggles with it today, but we're working on it, and I'm going to see if I can get it to work reasonably well here with the Cirrus and this fancy new terrain and scenery from ORBX. I also thought it would be kind of cool if I just stuck the Avatab map there for this flight. Cubs, good to see you. So we're just gonna do. We're not on Pilot Edge or anything like that. We're just gonna do some flights here to see how things look in the new ORBX scenery. Flaps 50, we're set, and in particular to see what kind of performance I get. In addition to seeing how the scenery looks. Some stutters there. Now my super sampling is set. To a little bit higher. Maybe I can tweak that a little bit. I got it set to. I got it set to 1.4. Let's go to 1.2 just to see how that helps performance. Let's stick that down there for a minute. We'll see. That got me back up to about 40 frames. Of course, this is Seattle, and it is the new ORBX scenery, so I would expect that it is going to be kind of hard on frame rates. 70 knots. It's looking okay. Not silky smooth. Just had a weather reload. But I can see Seattle okay in the distance. That looks cool. Flaps coming up. Make it just a little bit later in the day here so that we have a little bit of better view of the scenery. So let's do that real quick. Make it around noon. Okay. So if you haven't used any of the ORBX stuff, I used it in Prepared all the time, and it was great. And this is the True Earth package now for Washington. And it is color-corrected orthographic scenery. I've been downloading my own ortho scenery for a long time, but what they really do, which is impressive, is they do very accurate mapping of buildings. So you can see that those buildings there match their underlying ortho profiles almost exactly. Parking lot there. Has a house in the middle of it. Can't expect it to all be perfect. But buildings like that, warehouses, those kinds of things, the tree placement is extremely accurate with ORBX. Like this warehouse district, or we're going to go over Boeing Field here. You know, a lot of this stuff is just placed really well. The mesh is placed well. Kind of see the mountain in the background. do a flyby of downtown Seattle and see how that looks. Yes, Cubs, this is the ORBX scenery for Washington. And I'm in Seattle. So you can see how great that looks. Oh, look at the marina. Wow, that's cool. Let's go fly by that. Boeing Field down there. That's the stock one that comes with X-Plane. I think that's Redmond over there. So if you like to fly in this part of the world, this would be good for you. You can see those bridges there. Look great. Drawbridges. Power gen plant. Really, you can fly VFR very accurately with ORBX stuff. I'm gonna completely change the weather here. Hold on a second. Let's just give us Cirrus. And I'm gonna turn off Active Sky XP real quick, so it doesn't overload it. Now we'll have a little bit better view. Look at the port. Look how great that looks. The level of detail that goes into the scenery with ORBX is really great. Yeah, this is a big one. Here we have the sports stadiums. What else are we going to see? You can see the cranes from the port. Train moving through the chain yard. Take a look at downtown Seattle here. There's the stadiums. Ferris wheel, cruise ships. Great reflections off the buildings. Traffic moving through downtown. Queen Anne's Hill, or Queen Anne Hill, I can't remember. So downtown Seattle looks spectacular. And I'm doing fine with 40 frames here in VR. There's the Space Needle. Reflections on those buildings are great. Is it worth it over regular other? Well, I mean, it's $70 US. Is it worth it or not is a choice for you to make. A buddy of mine used to live at an apartment complex right there. The difference is the quality of the placement of the scenery. I mean, that downtown Seattle, the landmarks, and the quality of the mapping of the AutoGen, like that down there, is far superior. The underlying mesh for this is excellent, and the hand placement of objects is really, really great, and I think makes a big difference in terms of how stuff looks. We'll fly by at night and see how things look at night. I mean, tree placement. I mean, if you look at those trees, they are placed right on top of the ortho. So, especially if you're a low and slow flyer, you like VFR, that water tower, great example right there. The ORBX scenery is just fantastic. Let me adjust our time a little bit here. Bring us back across the city going this way again. It's a nice sunset here over the Olympias. Turn on some city lights and see how that looks. So for me, as a VFR flyer, yeah, it's absolutely worth it because I'm getting really, really incredible landmark placement in a way that I wouldn't get otherwise. Now I've modified my lights file, so I'm not quite sure if Xbox modifies it again, or Xbox, if ORBX modifies it again or not. We'll kind of go low and slow over the city here and see what we get. The basic specs of my CPU. RC, I've got all the specs at ontheglideslope.net, but this is a 1080 Ti card. The CPU is old. It's 4 or 5 years old now. It's a quad core running 8 hyper-threaded. I think it's an i7, if I remember. But it's a bit dated. The city looks great at night. Oops. I keep pushing that button. Sorry, guys. The docks look good at night. Individual red lights on the cranes. The elevated highway is lit nicely. Oh, gosh, I gotta move where I keep popping that. Let's get that out of the way. There we go. You can see how good that highway interchange looks there. Night looks pretty good in this, I have to say. Head over to Redmond. Then I'll bring the daytime back. Sorry, that's just the way that I'm setting that controller down. It's causing it to continue to do that. The city haze looks awfully good. That's driving me nuts. I can only imagine it's driving you guys nuts. Let's adjust the time again here. Give ourselves a sunrise. You can pop out the G1000 screen, which is what I had just done. Sort of an atmospheric sunrise there. Sun kind of right overhead. So I think this is Redmond here. I'll put my map back up. And again, we'll stick it kind of right there. Oh, Bellevue. That's Bellevue. Roger. I don't know my way around Seattle very well. I haven't spent a lot of time there. There we go. That's functional. Okay, so highway placement, underlying object placement. I have to say I seem to be getting better performance in this than I did in the Great Britain package. Now that might be just because I'm running X-Plane 11.35 and it might be more optimized. Maybe ORBX figured something out to make it a little less painful. But, I mean, this just looks spectacular. Nothing short of really, really, really great. So if we're flying IFR, we go, okay, well, there's a golf course up here. I see a golf course up here. There should be a golf course right there, where it's supposed to be. You can see the mountains coming into view. The amount of trees are what makes it look so real. Just really incredible forest placement, a variety of trees. I mean, again, they're trees where there's supposed to be trees and fields where there's supposed to be fields. The level of that is just really, really great. I'll set us down maybe on Orcas Island or something, and we can see how some of that stuff looks. Power lines there. Yep, there's power lines right on the chart. There's power lines right there. Now we're over Redmond. So I'm getting great performance, all told. Now let's give me some weather, see how it does with that. Because there's not going to be a lot of days like this flying around in Seattle. And weather is always what makes my sim suffer. Broken everywhere but me, it looks like. Well, okay, here we are in the suit. Time to fly on instruments. Frames are doing fine. I don't know what the ceiling is, but I'm clearly not at 24,000 feet. My barometer is not set. Hopefully we don't crash into anything here. So, IMC, I've got some cloud flicker, that's weird, but only in VR, I don't know if you guys can see that, but performance is hanging in there. Let's bring ourselves down here to below the cloud deck. There we go. Kenmore Air seaplane base, right in front of us. So that's hanging in okay. Those frames are hanging in 34, 35, flyable. Go back to Cirrus. So, and as we head back to Seattle, it looks really, really great. So maybe we should change it up and go to maybe Orcas Island and get in the Stinson and do some low and slow stuff and see how that looks. How does that sound? Let's see. Go up to change our chart. So up to maybe like Friday Harbor, Roche, Diamond Point. Here we are coming back into Seattle. Let's see, where do we want to go? Lopez, Decatur Shores, Rosario, Crow Valley, Orcas Island, ORS. Yeah, let's go check that out. So let's switch over and go there. Let's switch this back over. There we go. Okay, so let's go there. So I changed location to, I don't know why it has this way back here, but, or so it's sitting so low, but so it does. Orcas Island, customize. That ramp is fine, confirm. Let's put ourselves in the Stinson. Where did I pass it? There it is. And let's just go ahead and start with everything running. So this is going to take a second to load up. And we'll see how the scenery looks up in that part of Washington State. So it's a huge download. Now, part of the question is well, you know, what would ORBX's strategy be? What they did for X-Plane, what they did with Prepared, which works so well, was you could buy basically land classes that didn't have ortho scenery underneath them. But for large portions of the United States in particular, you can get like the Pacific Northwest, and the mesh was highly accurate. The underlying objects, the power lines, the creation of autogen was all very accurate. And then they also had better default land class tiles so that fields look more like fields and urban areas look more like urban areas without having ortho scenery. They haven't done that yet for X-Plane. Their first releases for X-Plane have both been their True Earth products, which are ortho scenery with all that mapping on top. Looks great, but it's expensive and gives you, I mean, in this case, not even all of Washington State, maybe, well, looking at the map, call it the size of Washington State. So if you're a low and slow flyer and you want to be around your home environment a lot, makes a lot of sense. But if you wanted to fly, you know, from one part of the country to the next, you'd have to buy an awful lot of scenery to pull that off. So we'll see what they do. Pacific Northwest looks great. We'll see how things work here at Orcas Island. When and if the scenery actually loads. I hope I haven't crashed X-Plane. Nope. Looks like it's still working. It's just working really hard. Loading scenery while running, streaming software while running, chat while running, etc., etc., etc. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna have to reposition us here because I'm not sitting face forward here in my seat. And let's see if I can grab my, can't grab my, that's funny. Let's try this. Try this. There we go. Now I should be able to get myself organized. And let's just put that right there. Okay, so Orcas Island, good. So let's see how this goes. Give myself a map, maybe right there. I've not really flown in the Stinson before, just maybe once, so we're kind of trying this out. All right. Try not to ground loop us. Tail dragger time. Go easy on the brakes. All right. Like the sloped runway, which I can no longer see. Okay, before we get going here, I just want to check one thing real quick on my phone. Let's see here. Then we'll be on our way. Okay, so here we go. And I hope the chat's working. I haven't seen a chat come through in a long time. Nope, looks like the chat's working. Okay, just wanted to make sure. All right, so we saw Seattle with this. Now let's see this part of Washington. And the Stinson. Guess I got a crosswind. There we go. Not a lot of tail dragger experience here. Okay, there we go. Hey, I fly a Cirrus in the real world. What can I say? Okay. So, Orcas Island, we are heading north. We'll see how stuff in this part of the ORBX scenery looks. Stinson's sort of fun to fly. And the first thing that I notice is how great the vegetation is. Again, their placement of trees is awesome. In there, you know, there's that little patch of field in the real world, and there's a patch there. There's Orcas Island Airport. That's default, the X-plane. Now, I don't know what the weather's like up here, but I'm tempted to load up Active Sky XP and see. So let's try to do that without crashing the airplane. I'm just loading Active Sky, and it's set to live weather. Okay, then we'll make a quick settings change here. I have to click this in the desktop, so 1 second. And Active Sky will load that scenery or that weather here in just a second. Okay, so low and slow in the Stinson. And again, performance is good, 40 frames, looks like we're getting. Might be fun to just fly around in this Stinson for a while. You know, maybe survey this part of the world with this airplane. Again, this is, I think, the second time I've ever used it. And a shutter there. There we go. Now I can see the chat. Northern Alex, good to see you. Thanks for checking in. I feel like my yoke isn't as calibrated in this as in the other. Does it have a rudder trim? I don't think it does. Oh, yeah, it does. That was the problem. Okay, so we're heading south now. Roughly, I guess we're going southeast. Toward Roche Harbor. Let's go ahead and fly toward Roche Harbor and see what we see. Oh, there we go. Now we can just stick our head out the window. You gotta love VR, man. Joey, hi. Alan, hello. Turn off the roads. Okay, so that's a setting in ORBX, right? FTX probably? No, David, this is the default Stinson in X-Plane. What do I prefer, home cockpit or the VR? Well, for things like this, the VR for sure. I mean, it's hard to do this in the home cockpit. But I've had a lot of trouble, candidly, with this Rift S since I got it. It's hasn't worked very well for me. I mean, it works great in the sim. This looks better than the Oculus for me. The visuals are better. But the software, the Rift software, has been buggy. And I think what I've learned is I have to load it from see if we can see this little private strip over here. I have to load it from, I have to load X-Plane from the VR software for it to work well, which is fine. But for practicing instrument procedures, I far prefer the home cockpit, and I also prefer the home cockpit for flying with friends. The immersion of VR is great. Now I'm having quite a bit of stutters right now. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe our friends at Windows have decided to do something. Let's see what I have running here. Not a whole lot. But, okay. Just part of the game, I guess. And I just lost the headset.